Hi. So, last time we were talking about quadratics and what they looked like, how to factor them, how to solve them, and we dealt with a rather easy case, x squared plus 5x plus 6. And we figured out that it was x plus 2 times x plus 3. Now, the first thing that I'd like to go over is one of the ways that we can figure out how our signs work. And the way that we do that is we look at the signs in our original quadratic expression. Here, the plus in front of our 6 means that we have to have something that multiplies to make a positive answer. So both of our signs are going to be the same. So we can have 1 times 6 or negative 1 times negative 6. Similarly, we can have 2 times 3 and negative 2 times negative 3. Now, the reason that this second sign is important, the one in front of the 5, is that tells us which sign we're going to use. If we add two negatives, that's only going to give us a bigger negative. So we can discount our negative answers. So we know that we're looking for positives. And as we saw last time, 2 plus 3 gave us our 5, so that's why we chose 2 and 3. So rather than having to fumble around and mess with integers and get all confused like a lot of students do, this makes it a little more formulaic. I'm not a big fan of memorizing or using rules, but if you can learn this to help you figure out what signs go where, then it might make things a little bit easier. So let's look at another example. Let's say we had x squared minus 12x plus 32. So what we're going to be looking for is something that multiplies to make 32, and we see that this sign is negative. So if we follow our formula that we just came up with, we know that we're going to have two minuses, because a negative times a negative makes a positive, so that'll give us our positive 32, and they're both going to have to be negative, because when they add up, they're going to have to give us a negative 12. Now, we don't have to worry about signs anymore, which is nice. So now we just have to look at all of our factors of 32. So we always know 1 in something is going to make it, so 1 times 32, but 1 plus 32 is 33. So that doesn't help us. It's even, so we know we can do 2. So we have 2 and 16, but 2 plus 16 is 18. So again, no help. Now, 3 doesn't work, but 4 does. 4 times 8 is 32, and 4 plus 8 is 12. So we have 4 and 8. Now, just for grins and giggles, let's check to make sure we've got it right. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 8 is our positive 32. So we have x squared, combine like terms, negative 8x minus 4x is equal to negative 12x plus 32. So we came back, so our factors must be correct. Then from this step you would set them both equal to 0 and then solve. Here the important thing was to see how our signs work. Let's look at another example. Let's try x squared minus 5x minus 14. So here we have a negative, which we haven't seen before. So let's figure out what we can do. We need something that multiplies to make negative 14. Because this is negative, we're going to have different signs. So let's go ahead and make a plus and a minus. Now, what multiplies to make 14? There's not many factors, it's just 1 and 14, and it's even, so 2 and 7. Now, let's see what kind of combinations that we can do to make these. We can either do 1 minus 14 or 14 minus 1. Because if our 14 is negative, then when we did 1 plus negative 14, that would be the same as 1 minus 14. But that's negative 13, so that's not any good. 14 minus 1 is positive 13. We don't need a 13 or a positive, so that's not useful. Now, we have to figure out how to come up with our negative 5. So we're either going to have 2 minus 7 or 7 minus 2. Now, 7 minus 2 is 5, but that's positive, we don't want it. 2 minus 7 is equal to negative 5. Now, this is something important, and it'll also help you out with integers, hopefully. Whenever you're subtracting two numbers that are both positive, instead of subtracting in the order that you see, always subtract the smaller from the bigger. In this case, 7 minus 2. That's why I did this one first. Then you just take the sign of the bigger number. In this case, there was a minus sign in front of 7, so we're going to have negative 5. And that is what we're looking for. So, in this case, our 2 is positive, and our 7 is negative. So, the trick here, if this is a negative, we're going to have two different signs, which we wrote first. This tells you the sign of the bigger number. In this case, 7 was bigger, so we put the negative in front of the 7. Now, as always, it's good to check our work, so let's do that. X times x is x squared. X times negative 7 is negative 7x. 2 times x is positive 2x. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. Combine like terms. X squared stays by itself. Negative 7 plus 2, or 2 minus 7 as we saw over here, is negative 5x minus 14. So, we checked it, we're right. So x plus 2 times x minus 7 is going to be our answer. So, we have a couple of situations here. If you see positive, positive, then that means you're going to have x plus something times x plus something. If you have negative positive, then you're going to have x minus something times x minus something. Also, we can have positive, negative. This is where our signs are different, so we're going to have x plus something times x minus something. In this case, because of the positive, this something is bigger. We can also have negative, negative. That would be x plus something, x minus something. And just like our case over here, because this is a minus, our minus is going to be the bigger number. So, again, I'm not a big fan of memorizing or using formulas, but it does help some people learn that way. If you prefer to just look at your factors, then you could just say, alright, I have 1 and 14, which one of them should I make negative? 2 and 7, which of those should I make negative? It's still only going to be 4 things to check, but this can help. Now, I will say that I do use this in my head whenever I'm trying to figure out factors, but I don't use it in a formula sense. I still have to figure out in my head why it makes sense. So, whichever way works better for you, hopefully this will clarify some of the easier cases. Next time, what we're going to talk about is whenever we have something in front of our x squared, because then we're going to have to do something a little different. We're either going to have to hope that something factors out, which would be the easier case there, or we're going to have to try a new factoring called splitting the middle term and then factoring by grouping. Thank you, and if you like my videos, subscribe and all that other jazz.